Love him or hate him, DJ Vlad is difficult to ignore, especially if you are an active player in the hip-hop industry. But we gotta be real serious, even if it's just for a minute, because it's also getting pretty difficult to ignore that DJ Vlad is becoming a serious problem for the culture.
Decades later, the man accused of plotting Tupac Shakur's 1996 murder made his first court appearance just 30 minutes ago. Here is video showing Dwayne Keffe D Davis in that courtroom at 8:30 this morning.
Because if he could get this man, Keffe Davis, to implicate himself in a case that was so old, detectives were ready to throw it out the window, then how on earth can we afford to just let him slide without accountability? Yeah, DJ Vlad has done a lot of good for the culture, but he's also done a lot of damage. So I'm asking if no one will, what kind of danger are we talking about here? Is DJ Vlad a Fed? And if he is or ain't, how on earth did he set up Keffe D on camera? Is DJ Vlad a Fed, or was Keffe D just dumb?
Now you taking off, you sucking off of black culture. Ooh. You're taking all, you're making money off black culture. You with black girls, shame on them. You know what I mean? Oh, and now, because they giving you that confidence to talk crazy to us.
Anyone who has at least half a brain cell working full shift knows that DJ Vlad is a leech. He is a leech on hip hop and the culture, more specifically black culture. And if I want to get even more specific, he leeches exclusively on the violence in black hip hop culture. Like DJ Academics, but worse. He and DJ Academics are what the people call culture vultures. Washed up musical talents that didn't find success in the nobility of music, so switched to documenting the culture. But unlike DJ Academics, whose rise to infamy was fairly recent, DJ Vlad has been running his rodeo for almost 2 decades at this point, since 2006. Now, anyone who's been at anything that long should be revered as a GOAT. DJ Vlad would have been a respected figure in the culture if his interviews weren't all about the negativity that hip-hop has to offer. The man has milked the violence, the murders, and all the high-profile cases that rappers have had with the law. However, it's the one he did with Keffe D that has had everyone hella suspicious, because DJ Vlad has been doing interview rounds saying he solved the case himself.
How did you feel when you heard about Keffe D being arrested?
I mean, I really didn't feel much. I think really this was for the Tupac fans out there. I mean, I felt that I essentially solved this whole case 4 years ago when I did the first interview with Keffe D.
First off, DJ Vlad didn't solve this case. A retired detective, Greg Kading, solved it. And we're going to be showing him a lot through this video as we try to make sense of the events that really led to Keffe's capture and all of the players in it. DJ Vlad's role in this whole game was giving Keffe D a platform to implicate himself. And this is where gets crazy, because if you're going to do that kind of thing to anyone, you should be considered a rat. Feds are professional rats. No one faults them because it's in their job description. But the question now is there an overlap in DJ Vlad's job description that allows him to set up characters like Keffe D? Now, I know there are some of y'all that will come to DJ Vlad's defense saying that this was for a good cause. Like, am I not happy we now have Tupac's killer right where he should have been all these years? Behind bars? To that, my answer is, hold on. You don't really think DJ Vlad was doing this for his love of pack, now do you? If you do, then pass me whatever blunt you're smoking, cause that got you on a plane I can only aspire to. Fam, DJ Vlad has admitted himself that he only does this shot for the money. He admitted on camera that he only focuses on issues that will get clicks.
When you sit down with me, it's not just gonna be, all promo and, like lighthearted. It's like, when we sit down, we're gonna talk about the real shit. Because if we don't, it's not going to get the views and the impact. It's gonna be a waste of everyone's time.
Mm-hmm. Now, I ain't against his paper chase. In fact, I'm impressed by his consistency and interview skills. But what gets me worried is that cases like Keffe D's own, where the real bad guy goes down, is just a flash in the pan. DJ Vlad's interviews have seen not 1, not 2, not even 3 rappers getting time in the pen because of his interviews. June 15th, 2023, Quando Rondo, the homie that Von attacked before Lil Tim stopped him with a bullet, had his Savannah, Georgia home raided by the police. This happened after he showed up for a DJ Vlad interview.
In my hand is the 17-page, 49-count indictment dating back to October 2022, and it's the reason why rapper Quando Rondo is sitting in this Chatham County jail since June 16th.
The police were accusing him of being a Crip. And it's funny because he'd said in the interview that he was no Crip. But hey, we're not done yet, because there's also BTB Savage. Remember him? The dude that defended himself, then went out of his way to flex on his dead op. Well, less than a month before he was killed, the homie was on DJ Vlad talking smack about his victim and the friends and families of the said victim. Now, the question you should ask at this point is why the DJ Vlad gave an amateur rapper like BTB Savage an interview when no one watching could name one song of his to save their life? You know the answer already. You also know that that interview was most likely what led to his death. It's a hell of a long list, and I could go on and on like I'm on some Trap Lore Raw shit. But it's at this point you probably ask why rappers accept interviews from DJ Vlad when they know he's shady ASF. More specifically, why did Keffe D appear on DJ Vlad's show? Well, that's a loaded question, and this is where the whole DJ Vlad is a Fed theory comes under serious threat. Because while it's easy to understand why rappers got Vlad for interviews, he had the numbers that can actually turbocharge their career under the right circumstances. They know he's the devil, all right, but most of them treat him like he's a necessary evil. I mean, he's the biggest out there, and even on his worst days, his videos don't do anything less than 6-figure view counts. And then, when you factor in the reality that he'll chop that interview to clips and promote the hell out of it, it's difficult to say no to that kind of free reach for 2 hours out of your time. But you see, when it comes to Keffe D and his choice to self-implicate, it's less a symptom of a bigger strategy at play, and it's more of a lack of gray matter in the old blues brain. The choice is a little different. We might not know whether or not DJ Vlad is a Fed, but what we know for certain is that Keffe was and still is goddamn stupid. Because if you really study the Keffe D Tupac murder case and all the events that tied Vlad into its continuity, only one person looks like they got a jar of peanuts between their ears, and that person is definitely not Vlad. Keffe D, origin story and AMP, the Tupac connection.
They didn't show up. We waited about 15, 20 minutes. They didn't show up. So it's like, let's go get some liquor. And Corey, they gotta kill us, dog. You know that motherfucker.
What you just heard is a live confession tape from 2008 where Keffe D confessed to the police about his role, involvement, and the role of every individual involved in the 1996 shooting of Tupac. This was before any DJ Vlad interview with the dude. In fact, and this probably the sickest shocker, Keffe D's confession about his involvement in the Tupac Shakur case came when they didn't even know he was involved. This is exactly how it happened. In 2009, Dwayne Keffe D Davis found himself in some serious LA police trouble over a PCP drug ring that came with hefty charges that would have seen him spending anything from 25 years to life behind bars. And the LAPD were ready to make those charges stick. But the detective in charge, Greg Kading, had other ideas. He wanted information on the events that led to Biggie's demise. And in return, he offered a version of immunity called a proffer agreement. Now, I'll come back to explain what a proffer agreement is and why it's so important to this case. But in the meantime, know that this was the offer on the table. Now, we all know Keffe D wasn't involved in Biggie's murder, but the police didn't know that. Another thing that the police didn't know was that Keffe D was involved and practically masterminded the whole operation that led to Tupac's demise. So Keffe D was like, well, I don't know nothing about Biggie's death, but I can tell you how Tupac died. You can imagine how shocked Greg Kading and the other officers were. And hey, I don't blame Keffe D. There was a possible life sentence hanging over his head, and the police were offering him this proffer agreement that basically implied that anything he said concerning the case would not be used against him.
A proffer agreement is not immunity. People get this confused. There's no immunity in a proffer agreement. All a proffer agreement is that information that you provide that is self-incriminating cannot be used against you.
Okay, my bad. So it's not a form of immunity. It's not even technical immunity. It's just, as Greg Kading neatly pointed out in that interview, a constitutional right. So yeah, it is possible that Keffe D was just thinking short term when he accepted the proffer agreement, because what he told them when they were ready to listen was everything. The sequence of events can start from either of 2 points. We can either start with Diddy, who, if you know anything about this case, is neck deep in the plot that took out Pac. Or we can start with Orlando Anderson, the alleged shooter of Tupac, who just happened to be Keffe D's cousin. Now, we are going to uncover Diddy's involvement in this mess in a second, but for now, and so we don't run this story of the rails, let's start from Orlando Anderson. More specifically, let's start from the night of the 7th of September 1996. Tupac and Suge were in Las Vegas for the birthday party of his business partner Tracy Danielle Robinson when they decided to attend a Mike Tyson boxing match at the MGM Grand Hotel and Casino. Now, before this event, Orlando Anderson had snatched the chain off one of Tupac's homie, basically bullying him and trying to rob him. Now, Orlando, like his uncle, was a Southside Compton Crip, and if you did not know, at this point, Tupac was moving with mostly Bloods, the flag that his boss, Suge, represented. So when they got there and one of Suge's associates, Trey D, spotted Orlando Anderson, he alerted the crew.
They was all together. Trey went to, the people that was there with him from his hood, from the mobs, from his neighborhood. And when he said it, Pac overheard it, and that's when Pac took off.
Tupac Shakur jumped Orlando Anderson. Of course, Suge and the crew joined in. That was kind of the genesis of the whole mayhem. But while all of this was happening at the MGM Casino, at the MGM Hotel, and around the same time, Orlando's uncle, Keffe D, was having dinner with his own crew.
We went to eat. We was eating. And man, they came and said, "He just beat up Lane." And we was in the hotel. Yeah, at the MGM and the restaurant. There was a few New Yorkers though who was with Zip. Like, man, y'all need some help. We got this.
Now, aside from Orlando, who would join them later in their drive-by hit on Shakur, other characters eating with Keffe D were Terrence T. Brown, DeAndre, Big Dre Smith, Eric Von Zip Martin, and his New York crew. Eric Von Zip Martin's involvement in this whole scenario is important because he was Diddy's man, and the crew he was rolling with was by extension Diddy's crew. Now, as a direct result of the Suge versus Diddy feud that had torn up both territories on the East and West Coast, Diddy had placed a bounty on Tupac's head, or at least that's what Zip told Keffe D while they were having that dinner at the MGM Hotel. And in that moment, and with due cause coming from Pac jumping his nephew, they decided they would collect that bounty.
Right there, this is a perfect opportunity, baby.
That was Zip talking?
Yeah.
Because of what happened with Wayne?
Yeah. Because he told me in the lobby that he had some Jimmys.
Some what?
Had a Jimmy in that Benz. He had a little secret compartment. The thing popped out. Popped up. Popped up, yeah.
In the armrest?
Yeah.
Eric Von Zip Martin, who you must not forget was Diddy's man, gave Keffe D the gun that would be used to kill Pac that night. But hold on, because we are about to get to the part where Keffe D gave them info they didn't even need to know. Now, Eric and his New York Crips wanted to help, and they tried to. With a Cadillac and a van, they left the MGM Hotel and drove to the club that Pac was going to be at that night.
He's like, yeah, show the perfect time, you know.
Okay, then you jump out of the car, and then what happens?
I got in the van with the busters. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so Lane and Cadillac with T. Brown and Dre?
Yeah.
You heard that chuckle from the detective before he quickly clarified for the record? That was a nervous chuckle. That was a I can't believe this guy is telling us this much self-incriminating shit kind of chuckle. But hey, he had the proffer agreement, right? Now, Keffe D wasn't done. He would proceed to tell them more. He told them that they didn't find Pac at the club, and after waiting 20 minutes, the New York crew were getting anxious and scared. So he, his nephew, and two of his friends decided to split from them and go get a drink.
The Cadillac is being driven by Terrence Brown. In the front passenger seat is Keffe D. Behind the driver is DeAndre Smith. And in the right rear passenger seat is Keffe's nephew, Orlando Anderson.
This unfortunate quartet had actually already given up on their hit, and there is a universe where they decided to give up early and Pac would still be alive. Unfortunately for Pac, and in what can only be described as a cruel twist of fate, they stumbled on the rapper and all hell let loose.
I thought he was gonna pull on my side. You know, that's my little nephew. I'm gonna look out for him, you know. And he pulled on their side.
So you were fitting to blast if you had to, or you were just...
Yeah, if we would have been on our side, I would have blasted.
Okay.
Eventually, Keffe D would round up his confession by revealing that it was Orlando who eventually pulled the trigger. His nephew was the one who killed Tupac. So what did the police do with this damning confession? Well, nothing. His confession came at a time when he was the only one alive amongst all the four men in the car. All of them had died. And because of the proffer agreement, Keffe D could not be persecuted for the self-incriminating murder confession he had just given. So what did the police do? Well, they did two things. They kept the case open, and then they waited. And in probably the dumbest move of this century in any legal case, Keffe D went out of his way to confess to everyone and anyone who was willing to listen to him. How Keffe D helped the police.
And then, you know, I got in contact. I knew someone who knew Keffe D, so he put us in contact with him. And I come to find out that they had just written a book. Him and his co-writer, Yusuf, had just written a book about it. We got a copy of the book, we read through it, and it was like, he lays out the whole thing.
In 2019, Keffe D wrote a book, a fucking book. And in that book, he went into way more details than he had even gone into when he was confessing to the police back in 2008. But hey, if you think a book is bad, then what about a documentary? Sounds good? Well, a year before publishing the book, Keffe D had done a whole-ass documentary with BET.
You said the shots came from the back. Big Dre, Orlando. Who shot Tupac?
The keeper for the code of the streets. It just came from the backseat, bro.
Now, in his defense, and despite the fact he was grinning like a cat in that clip I just showed you, Keffe D thought or believed he was gonna die. He had cancer, or at least that is what his doctor told him. So the man must have felt like he had nothing to lose and probably just wanted to bankroll the events while he was still alive, unlike his nephew and colleagues who took the secret to their grave. Unfortunately, his cancer refused to kill him, and Keffe D survived long enough to write a memoir, the book I told you about, that was titled Compton Street Legend. And it was with that book that Keffe D really helped the police police build a case that would lead to a series of events that would eventually lead to his arrest. Stuff that he didn't tell the police. Stuff that implicated Diddy deeply. Like how he had actually had a meeting with Diddy at Greenblatt where Diddy pulled him aside and explicitly requested a hit on both Tupac and Suge Knight. He said in his book that Puffy was full of fear, and that even if Diddy hadn't ordered the hit, the Southside Crips already had Pac in mind because of a specific verse in his legendary diss track Hit 'Em Up. If you want to be down with Bad Boy, then f you too. There was a lot in the book, all right, but the most important bit came towards the end when KEEFE D had to reflect on the impact of his hit on Tupac. KEEFE D had zero remorse. In his own words from the book, the man said, "The moral of the story, real gangsters are nothing to f with," calling Pac's shooting another day at the office and writing that Tupac's death was collateral damage. These are just snippets of his aloof insanity. But I think it's better I read out this section for you to show you just how psychotic he was and still is, almost 3 decades after his hit on Tupac. I hate that Tupac's family, friends, and fans, especially his mother, Afeni Shakur, had to go through the pain of losing her son. However, I stand firm on the point that Tupac, Suge Knight, and the rest of those didn't have any business putting their hands on my beloved nephew Baby Lane. Tupac chose the wrong game to play and the wrong to play with. Tupac was a guppy that got swallowed up by some ferocious sharks. He shouldn't have ever got involved in that of trying to be a thug. KEEFE D was a psychopath, a nasty reminder that the violence in hip-hop and the culture didn't start in the new generation. Unsurprisingly, because KEEFE D was an embodiment of everything wrong with the culture, DJ Vlad turned up at his doorstep. Like a swarm of bearded flies to a mound of piss and shit, DJ Vlad got KEEFE D on his channel for an interview. Like I pointed out earlier, this interview was what opened up the case with the police, because immediately it dropped. The police began reaching out to Vlad, asking him for access to all the Keffe D interview footage.
It's been reported that you have resisted efforts by the police to hand over all the unedited tapes. Is that true, and if so, why?
Yeah, it's true.
DJ Vlad didn't cooperate with the police. That's probably true. But hey, if you watch the whole interview, you would find that he didn't have to, because DJ Vlad interrogated his ass like Amanpour, got him to sing like he was on some Winfrey shit. When Vlad asked KEEFE D to confirm some of those self-incriminating testimonies in the interview, the old homie would try to deflect with, "Let them read about it," or "I'm not gonna go into details on that one. Keep the streets, homie." But then Vlad had already done his homework, and he would quote the old man's memoir like a memorized Bible verse, forcing KEEFE D to agree. So when all was said and done, the police had all the evidence they needed to lock his ass up. They had him on 3 fronts and in 3 media formats. The proffer agreement protected audio confessions from 2008, the written confession he sold as a memoir, and finally, the countless video confessions he had given on not just Vlad's YouTube channel and the BET documentary. KEEFE D was toast, and on the 29th of September, 2023, he was arrested by Las Vegas detectives for the murder of the 1996 killing of Tupac Shakur.
Hey Keith, Metro Police, come over here. Hey Metro Police, come over here, all right? Thanks, buddy. Come on over here. Appreciate your cooperation, okay? I'll stand right here in front of the car. Yep, brother. Yep, we're going to put it down. I know, hang on. Put that down for a second, all right?
Now, while the cops and the culture were celebrating this arrest, they knew there was one last move on the chessboard, one last missing piece of the puzzle missing. Sean Puffy Combs, Diddy, the man who, according to KEEFE D, was the mastermind of the entire thing. What would happen to him? He sure as hell would never appear on Vlad's YouTube channel. So what happens next? Will Diddy get arrested for plotting the demise of Tupac Shakur? After KEEFE D, who next, Puffy?
You was on top of the world until you met Puffy. What you mean by that?
Man, was getting 300 kilos a month, man. Balling, man. Didn't nobody know about me. It was smooth, dude. Laid out smooth, man. I bet there. And all the heat and thunder come around.
KEEFE D has implicated Diddy in the Tupac murder case, and it's not like anyone doubts him. Truth is, Diddy's involvement was one of the worst kept secrets on the streets. I mean, 50 has been trolling Puffy's ass since this case went from cold to hot again, advising him to lawyer up. But the question on everyone's mind is, will Diddy get arrested? Is there enough to get the bad boy exec arrested and hopefully sent to jail for the role he played in Tupac's demise? Well, to answer that question, we gotta examine the evidence. We gotta go through the account that KEEFE D gave and fill in the blank spaces. 2 things: how close and connected were KEEFE D and Diddy? And 2, what happened to the contract? More specifically, what happened to the $1 million bounty Diddy promised for the Pac's demise? 1991 was the very first time that KEEFE D and Diddy met.
I met him back in like 91. He was doing the Usher video. My way. You know what I'm saying? My way. No, not my way, but
Can I Get With You? That was Usher's very first song.
Keffe did some favors for Diddy that day, and from then on, Diddy kept in contact with the man, introduced him to his own crew, one of whom included Eric Von Zip Martin. So now, you know how Eric and Keffe got acquainted. That was the genesis of their relationship, and it only grew tighter from then on. Soon enough, Keffe D was Diddy's check-in whenever they wanted to do a show in Los Angeles. He was their points man, their protection in the City of Angels, Diddy's very own ears on the ground. Now, before we talk about what happened to the $1 million payment, we gotta talk about the trigger that led to Diddy putting out that contract on Suge and Pac's head in the first place. Because $1 million is a lot of money, even if the target is Suge and Pac. And no, the trigger ain't the piss-drinking incident of '95. It was some months before that. The death of this guy, Jake Robles. Jake was Suge's personal bodyguard and close friend, and his death came at an event that both Suge and Diddy attended in Atlanta. Their securities got into a scuffle, and Jake got shot by Diddy's man. Now, if you know anything about Suge, then you know that he ain't really the type of guy to forgive. And worse than forgiving, he wasn't even looking for the finger on the trigger. He wanted the head of the money behind the finger on the trigger. He wanted Diddy dead. This, ladies and gentlemen, was the incident that spurned the Christmas party piss drinking of 1995.
Can you take me through the incident of Suge making Puffy's friend drink the piss?
Again, that was something that was reported, kind of urban legend. We know for sure an assault took place with Mark Anthony Bell at the Christmas party.
Now, Greg might not have known for sure if Puffy's friend, Mark Anthony Bell, drank piss, but he knew that Suge was trying to get Puffy's home address from the man, and it wasn't to send presents.
He might have got a few punches, and he probably drunk about 20 shots of piss. You know what I mean? Literally.
Diddy didn't need a fortune teller to know that Suge was out for his life, and he was relentless. That incident with the piss drinking was the trigger for the bad boy exec to activate the contract. Simply, I'll kill them before they kill me kind of mentality. But is this circumstantial evidence enough to get Puffy arrested? And is there a chance he could get convicted? Well, some people believe he can. Some argue that he's wealthy and that he could find a way to beat the case or even circumvent the law. Well, I don't know about that, because as recently as 2015, Diddy was arrested after a kettlebell assault case on his son's college coach. He got off easy on that one, but that's all the proof you need to know that he's not untouchable. Far from it. I mean, what are we even talking about? Kanye West is enough proof that billionaire status doesn't protect you from the system when it wants to make an example of you. But we don't even need to dwell on the Kanye example, because there's still more to the story. Before the $1 million, Diddy had sent out a $5,000 contract to anyone who could snatch the death row chain from the neck of any of Suge's inner circle. That's what led to the Orlando chain snatching incident and the Orlando ass-whopping incident months later that eventually led to Pac's killing incident on the same day at the hands of Orlando. With enough tangible proof, Diddy's DNA is all over this case like baby drool on a pacifier. Okay, I need to stop playing. What really happened to the $1 million payday? Who took it? Because if we can get the paperwork for that, then we can trace it to Diddy and bam, we got him. Well, it's kind of sad to say this, but Keffe D never received the $1 million. According to a couple of homies who were in his circle when he was alive, Eric Von Zip Martin got the $1 million check from Diddy and didn't give Keffe nothing. He shared the money amongst his own homies and within his inner circle, but Keffe D was left out in the cold, and that could be Diddy's only saving grace. There's no paper trail that leads back to him. The $1 million was on paper invested in Keffe D's business. And to make matters even more complicated for investigations, Eric Von Zip Martin is dead. So it's Keffe's word against Diddy. So far, Keffe D has lost on multiple fronts. And in moments where it seemed like he was about to stop his losing streak, Keffe himself forced himself back into the losing game. Y'all can blame DJ Vlad all we want and come up valid, but if we want to be candid, we know DJ Vlad did not set up Keffe D on camera. The old man did all of that himself.